If you're still relying on motivation to get yourself to do productive things, then I have some news for you. Motivation does not work in the long run. It is bound to fade away over time. Just a couple of years ago, I used to be someone who was fairly undisciplined. My assignments used to be incomplete, my room was always a mess, and I was just wasting 6+ hours of my day binge watching shows on Netflix and doom scrolling. But today, I'm a different man. I am now someone who you would consider as highly disciplined. I wake up at 4 a.m., work 4 hours on my business, lift weights at the gym, train martial arts 6 days a week, and I read multiple books a month. The reason why I was able to finally live a disciplined life was not because of motivation, but because I was following principles that made discipline feel effortless. In this video, I'm going to share with you 4 principles that are going to transform you into someone who is highly disciplined. So let's get right into it. You might find this shocking, but the first 5 minutes of your day dictate how the rest of your day goes. If you start your day by checking notifications, scrolling, or watching some random video, then your rest of the day is pretty much cooked. What you have done now is given yourself a taste of instant pleasure without any effort. And this taste is very hard to forget. For the rest of the day, your mind basically wants more of this quick pleasure. And now you're going to find it very difficult to do things that require some sort of effort. To avoid starting my day on the wrong foot, I put my phone on flight mode before I go to bed at night. This way, when I wake up, I do not have exciting notifications waiting for me, and I'm not tempted to get that instant pleasure. On the other hand, if you immediately start off your day by doing something challenging, like you wake up and just take a cold shower or read 5 pages of a book or work on your business for 30 minutes, the type of activity does not really matter as long as it is a bit challenging. It could either be physically challenging or intellectually challenging. Now you have set a very different tone for the rest of your day. You have sent your mind the message that, hey, if you want pleasure, then you have to do the work. And when you start your day with this little win, it gets far easier to get more wins later on in the day. But make sure that this behavior that you do immediately after waking up is not too challenging, else chances are that this is going to make you anxious and you are probably going to procrastinate that behavior. Here's the tricky part. We can talk about all sorts of productive morning routines and how you can just wake up and start doing challenging things. But the truth is, most people can't have productive mornings without first fixing their nights. If your sleep is not optimized, you will wake up feeling tired, unmotivated, and very likely skip that challenging task. That is why creating a solid bedtime routine is essential. It sets the foundation for a productive morning. My nighttime routine is that firstly, I finish my dinner at least 90 minutes before I go to bed. This way my sleep is of a higher quality because now my body is not too busy digesting food when I'm sleeping. It can instead perform all those crucial repair functions instead. If you have dinner right before you go to sleep, then chances are you're still going to wake up feeling tired despite sleeping 8 hours. The next thing that I do is that I dim all the lights in my room 90 minutes before I go to bed. This way your body gets the message that, hey, it's time to sleep, secrete the right sleepy hormones. I've noticed that when I'm hit with bright lights, especially close to bedtime, then it takes me a lot longer to fall asleep and I'm more likely to feel wide awake in the middle of the night. Lastly, I make sure that I do not do something super exciting or super stressful later on at night. No workouts, no calls from work. Otherwise, I find that my brain keeps working later at night. So the moral of the story is, if you want to be someone who's productive in the morning, optimize your sleep schedule for 2 weeks and you're naturally going to wake up feeling rejuvenated and full of motivation. If you're a young person living in these modern times, then just know that everything is out here to destroy your mind with hyper-stimulation. Highly processed food that is all around you is super addicting, hyper-stimulating, and is most likely going to give you brain fog. The content that is present on social media, either it is just complete brain rot entertainment that is just going to make you doom scroll for hours and wreck your attention span, or it is hyper-sexualized and it is going to make you goon, pump your brain full of excessive dopamine, and eventually going to make you feel depressed and anxious in the long run. This is the sad truth that I came to learn in my early 20s, that most things that give you this free pleasure are not actually free. The price to pay is the future you's mental health. The way that you can combat this 21st century world with all its hyper-stimulation is by creating an environment that protects you from being sucked into this rabbit hole of quick pleasure. One of the things that I have done is that I have removed all forms of social media from my phone, especially those apps which offer short form content. No Instagram, no TikTok, no Reddit. All these things trap your attention. And I kid you not, the entire business model of these apps is based on that. And if you're really having this fear of missing out and you really want to check up with your friends or see the DMs that you have received, and even when you access them, set a timer for 10 minutes so it actually reminds you to get off it. This way you're actually going to the app with a purpose. not just mindlessly doom scrolling. The second form of protection that I have is that I have decided to no longer entertain myself with brain rot content. Made a decision that even the style of entertainment that I consume is going to have a certain standard. So these days I consume podcasts, historical documentaries, or movies which are really inspiring. To be honest, when I consume these things for entertainment, my brain does not feel messed up. And at first, this transition was not easy, especially if your brain is addicted to that fast-paced brain rot content. So initially I found most of these new forms of entertainment as slow and rather boring. But over time, my brain recalibrated and stabilized. I then started enjoying this new form of entertainment. Give it some time, give yourself like a 2-week challenge that during these 2 weeks you're not going to consume any of that brain rot content. You're just going to stick to podcasts and documentaries. There's no question about the fact that there is a pornography epidemic going on right now. If I were to guess, I would say 8 out of 10 men are addicted to pornography. Just because how easy it has become now to access it. One protective measure that I regularly use to prevent lust from taking over me is fasting. Fasting is when you do not eat food for a particular window of time. What I've realized is that when you're in a fasted state, your body's priorities change. You're far more interested in being productive rather than reproduction. This allows you to get a hold of your lust, channel your energy into productive things. If you're like someone who's struggling with lust, try this out. Only eat 1 meal a day for the next 7 days and try to make this meal your dinner. You're going to realize that on the days you eat just 1 meal, there is a massive drop in your lust and a massive increase in your self-control. If you would like to work with me to help you eliminate procrastination and build you that rock solid discipline, make sure that you click on the link in the description and book a one-on-one call with me. You are what you eat. This quote has so much truth to it. I'm probably going to say something that is going to shock you. But 80% of your mental health, your mood, your discipline, your productivity is determined by what you eat. Back when I did not really take my diet all that seriously and I would consume a lot of fast food, I basically had no impulse control. The kind of thoughts that I would have were all about having quick fun. Also, I felt tired and sleepy the entire day. Even if I would sleep for 10 hours at night, I would still wake up feeling tired. Lastly, I had a really hard time focusing on things. I always felt like I had a lot of brain fog. Once I understood that there is a strong connection between what you put in your gut and the way that you think, that is when I started making some dietary changes. The first experiment that I did was that I started getting rid of all processed food and all packaged stuff that has 15 plus ingredients in it. And to be honest with you, this was not easy at all. But after following the right protocols, I was able to overcome my food addiction. Within a few weeks of stopping processed food, I saw a boost in my attention span. No more episodes of random sadness, and I was a lot less anxious. Things were not perfect, but they were far better than what they used to be. The second set of experiments that I started doing was with intermittent fasting. The way that this would work was that for 16 hours a day, I would not eat anything. This was basically my fasting window. And then I would have an eating window of 8 hours, during which I would consume 2 large meals. Following this 16-8 intermittent fasting protocol made me realize how much better I'm able to focus when I have nothing in my belly. Additionally, my sleep became better instantly. It took me a lot less time to fall asleep, and I would wake up fresh even without an alarm. If I'm being honest with you, just intermittent fasting, avoiding processed food, and eating at fixed times every day is going to make you feel better and more disciplined than probably 90% of the world. But the third experiment that I have been doing is by far the most powerful one, at least for me. So I still have that intermittent fasting protocol, but for the very first meal that I eat, I don't have any carbs in it. You know, you have experienced that mid-afternoon energy crash. I stopped having it once I eliminated carbs from my meal, and I actually made that first meal way smaller with just a little bit of protein and fats. The second meal of my day is where I get most of my carbs and my calories, and having this meal much later in the day helps me actually fall asleep better. So basically now what I'm doing is a combination of intermittent fasting and low carb diet, and this has allowed me to function at my absolute best. So perhaps you can try experimenting with various diets: carnivore, 1 meal a day, intermittent fasting, or keto, and see how you feel on these different diets. If you sense that, whoa, your energy levels have gone up and you're thriving, but if you feel that, nah, you actually feel horrible while doing it, then end this experiment and try a different diet. But just be sure that you actually give your body the time that it requires to adapt to this diet. It could take a few weeks. I used to think productivity meant going all in, massive effort and big results. I would push myself very hard for a few days, but then I couldn't sustain this effort. Most days I didn't have the energy or the motivation to keep up this intensity. And because of this, I was very inconsistent at most things that I did. That mindset of mine changed once I read Atomic Habits. One of this book's core idea hit me hard. You don't need big effort to make big progress. If you just get 1% better every day, then by the end of the year, you are 37 times better than you used to be. And that realization just flipped a switch in me. So I stopped trying to read half a book in one sitting or stopped trying to get ripped in one week. Instead, I built a system to read just 5 pages of a book a day and just work out 30 minutes a day. Something small but consistent. This shift from chasing quick wins to now building systems is when my progress really started to compound. Then ask yourself, what are the small steps that you can take every single day to ensure that you make a tiny amount of progress? Once you know what you would like to progress in and what are the steps to take each day, now it's time to make that tiny habit easy to perform. Think of all possible ways how you can make this habit effortless. For example, if that small habit is just going to the gym every day, then firstly fix a specific time at which you are going to be hitting the gym. Then make sure that the gym that you sign up to is pretty close to your house. Make sure that your shoes and your clothes are out before it's time to hit the gym. Doing and knowing all these things in advance removes all friction from this small habit. Makes it feel a lot more easy. If you're someone who's actually quite ambitious, but you feel stuck in life, you're procrastinating things, you're a bit too lazy, then make sure that you watch this video to get out of that rut.